Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and welcome to episode 173 of the Conscious Resistance Live, brought to you by Civil. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Les Wexner. Yep, that creep who was a financier of Jeffrey Epstein. He is not escaping the limelight for once. He's back in the news, although not in a major way, so we're going to shine a light on that tonight. We're also going to be talking about Trump's new executive order trying to restrict states from regulating and restricting AI, artificial intelligence, and why that's not a good thing. Then we're going to talk about some updates regarding flying in the United States, what they're calling a biometric corridor, which is being described as the future of flying in the United States, and really, let's be honest, around the world. And finally, we will talk about a new report that is kind of complex, but it's related to the Border Patrol and a program, Operation Pig Whistle. I've never heard about it. It's a brand new report coming from Yahoo News. And I think it's important that we understand just the lengths that Border Patrol, Customs, etc., ICE obviously is growing under the guise of this immigration police state and why it's not something we should support. So all that tonight and more on the Conscious Resistance Live. And as I said, this show is brought to you by Civil. So let's go ahead and just show you civilcivl.com. I just concluded my part of the 10-week opt-out challenge, which is one of the pieces of content that I've been producing exclusively for Civil. For those who don't know, Civil is a podcasting platform. It's a streaming network. So you can watch this on your tablet, on your phone. You can watch it through Roku, Amazon TV, Apple TV, etc. You just find the Civil app, CIVL. You sign up for either $5 a month or $50 a year. You get access to my documentaries, including the upcoming final episode of The Pyramid of Power. You get access to content like the 10-week opt-out challenge, which, as I said, I just finished my portion of it, but John Bush is going to be rounding it off this Wednesday and then concluding on December 31st. And that'll be available to you forever if you sign up. It's not just, when it's live and then that's it, it's gone. You get access to that forever, not to mention all the documentaries that they have and the other types of content, podcasts, including the one you're watching now. So I highly encourage everybody to sign up at civilcivl.com/TCR is the best way to do so. And you can get a 20% discount on that with the code TCR20. And of course, my website, as always, is theconsciousresistance.com. Guys, this is the best place to find all of my content and everything that I'm doing here. New interviews I release. We just put out a Q&A last week, a Christmas Q&A from the Independent Media Alliance. I also just announced a new partnership between the Freedom Cell Network and Quartal, which I'll be talking to you guys in just a little bit about. And so, yeah, sign up there because, oh, by the way, I just got banned again on Facebook. It hasn't happened in a couple of years, to be honest. I've been using Facebook since 2009, but I quit a couple times and I abandoned the platform. But I decided to go back in 2019 to, reach a larger audience. And I get it. Everybody out there is like, Derrick, why are you even on Facebook? Trust me, I fully understand the reasons to not be on these platforms. I wish I didn't have to be on YouTube talking to you guys right now. I wish I didn't have to be on Twitter talking to you guys right now. But after several years, from 2015 till pretty much 2019, I tried to get people to go to BitChute, to get people to go to Odyssey, to get people to go to Minds, to MeWe, to Float, to all the different alternatives that exist out there, and some that still do exist, Nostr and others. And the vast majority of you guys will not leave YouTube. You will not leave Facebook. You will not leave Twitter. So I've kind of given up on the idea. I am on Odyssey. I am on BitChute. I am on Telegram. I am on Substack. I am on all these. I am on Nostr. I'm on all these alternatives, and I'm grateful for them. But I've accepted that the masses, including you guys, aren't going to leave. You're just not going to leave. And I get it. Your friends are there, your family's there, whatever. But I am on the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the Twitters because the fact of the matter is not only will you guys not leave, but because you won't leave, I get 10 times, 100 times engagement on Facebook. And so it kind of sucks. My page has been banned. If you happen to follow me on Facebook and you're looking for me, you search my name, you won't find me. And I don't think I'm going to get the page back because they're asking for a selfie of my face in order for me to get it back. And I'm just not going to play that game. And I've done this in the past where I just kind of ignored them and they've given me the page back. We'll see what happens. But if you happen to be following me on Facebook and you're seeing this video somehow, the best place, guys, is always going to be follow me at theconsciousresistance.com. Sign up for my email list there because that way you can make sure you get all of my content, all my important updates. And if you just visit the website once a week or twice a week, you'll get everything anyways. You just won't see me ranting and raving on social media like I do sometimes. But all right, let's go ahead. Let's jump into our first story. This one's coming from the folks over at Dropsite News, who have been doing some wonderful work over the recent months, and really in general. I've shouted them out a few times, but they're doing some really great work as it pertains to Jeffrey Epstein. This one just came out 5 days ago, December 10th. Ask Jeffrey. Epstein ran Wexner's pro-Israel philanthropy machine, emails reveal. The Wexner Foundation has long claimed Epstein did not make decisions regarding the use of the foundation's funds. New emails show that is flagrantly false. And many of us have suspected that for a long time. For those who don't know who Les Wexner is the billionaire founder of the Limited Brands. Here, let me go ahead and just pull that up real quick at theconsciousresistance.com, because I've reported on him quite a bit over the years. If you go to theconsciousresistance.com and you check out our Epstein network archives right here, or if you just search Les Wexner, you're going to find dozens of reports I've done on Les Wexner, because he is really the money man. You can see me and Whitney Webb talking about him years ago. New evidence connecting Jeffrey Epstein to Les Wexner, the evidence for Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad connection, and that's a picture of Les Wexner right there. And so we've been covering this. We've been focused on him. And in fact, I think it's been a big shame that Les Wexner has mostly got away. In fact, back in September, you guys might remember, I went to DC for the big press conference for Jeffrey Epstein. And I actually asked, as you can see here, here's the video of me asking at the Epstein Files Transparency press conference, asking Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, the lawyers and the victims, if any of them have anything to say about Les Wexner. And most of them said no. But Annie Farmer, as you can see right here, on screen, she steps up and basically says, look, Les Wexner hasn't been held accountable. He's definitely involved, and people need to investigate him. So because of that, I got his name back in the news. He was reported on again in the local news in Ohio, where he's from, which is where the Limited Brands was originally found. Of course, that's the Limited store, that's Victoria's Secret and other things. And Les Wexner is most infamously, as I talk about here, part of the Mega Group. And you can see here, Ghislaine Maxwell sentenced to 20 years. The Mega Group gets away. And I've talked about this elsewhere. You can find that in the evidence for Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad connections, talking about Les Wexner and the Mega Group, which is basically just a wealthy group of Jewish financiers, that's what they call themselves, who say that they are there to advocate for Israel and for Zionism. So Les Wexner has escaped any kind of repercussions, and he basically publicly said, I knew Jeffrey Epstein for a couple of years, then we found out he was stealing from me, and we got rid of him. End of story. And then after that, he's just stayed in his mansion in Ohio, and the press has pretty much ignored him. Now, what this new report from Dropsite News is showing, that the Wexner Foundation, which is, of course, Les Wexner's foundation, that they continue to interact and deal with Jeffrey Epstein, and even let Jeffrey Epstein make decisions for their foundation well after Epstein was exposed in 2005 and then released in 2008. And so we have clear evidence that Les Wexner was lying. So it says here, our latest article on the life and times of Jeffrey Epstein is based on a cache of emails obtained by the whistleblower nonprofit Distributed Denial of Secrets, which provided access to them to Dropsite News. And this Distributed Denial of Secrets, this group has, their emails have been kind of a wealth of stories over the last few weeks, few months, really. This cache includes the undisclosed names of Epstein victims, as well as explicit images, meaning it can't simply be published in whole without some redactions, but many of the messages can quickly be made public. And to that end, Dropsite is collaborating with the team that built Gmail to make news emails available and searchable there beginning this week. So if you don't know about Gmail, I found out about this a couple of weeks ago. I posted about it online. Gmail.world is basically, this looks like a Gmail account, right? But you see in the top right corner, that's Jeffrey Epstein's picture. They pretty much took all of Jeffrey Epstein's emails that have been released. They formatted them so it looks like you're logged in a Gmail account as Jeffrey Epstein. And it's honestly, it's pretty crazy here. And you can search by Larry Summers, Alan Dershowitz, Noam Chomsky. You can search by name, Sarah Kellen, and find those related emails. Every single one of these emails are actually emails that Jeffrey Epstein received or sent. And if you see at the top of here, it says, Yahoo emails are rolling out now. 18,000 emails from Dropsite News' investigation, originally released by DDoS Secrets. New batches added weekly. View it here. You click that and it takes you to the emails specifically. It says here, you're in Jeffrey Epstein's Yahoo inbox. New emails rolling out via Dropsite News. learn more about this. And then again, you can search and find the different people that he was talking to, including Les Wexner. So it's kind of weird and cool at the same time. You can just search and find all kinds of topics. So if you wanted to search, let's just say Israel, for example, it'll show you every email that mentions Israel, and it's indexed, and it's meant to look like Gmail, but of course they call it Jmail. And so you can see emails with Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, and on and on and on. So it's a really great resource. So DropSite News, working with Jmail, have now made these emails searchable. And here's Les Wexner with Jeffrey Epstein and some other person who's redacted. 6 months after Jeffrey Epstein's death in August 2019, the philanthropic foundation founded by the billionaire fashion tycoon Les Wexner published an independent review of Epstein's involvement in the organization in response to concerns raised by donors and alumni of foundation-funded programs. The Wexner Foundation is one of the largest contributors to pro-Israel causes in the United States. The review claimed that the Wexner Foundation staff had, quote, no contact with Epstein after his resignation as a trustee in September 2007. And before that, he, quote, played no role in the management or administration of the foundation's operations and had, quote, no meaningful role in the foundation's budget or finances, and, quote, did not make decisions regarding the use of the foundation's funds. None of that is true. Hundreds of leaked emails from Jeffrey Epstein's Yahoo inbox from 2005 to 2008 contradict the Wexner report. Inside the Wexner's family financial office in Ohio, staff treated Jeffrey Epstein as a de facto chief financial officer, where major decisions about taxes, lines of credit, 8-figure fund transfers, politically sensitive grants were routed through Epstein's lawyers and required Jeffrey Epstein's approval. So not even just that, okay, yeah, Epstein was around and he was kind of a friend of the foundation. They were seeking Jeffrey Epstein's approval for these different things. This new email cache was vetted and published by DDS and contains many of the same forensic signatures as the data set reported by Bloomberg earlier this year. Officials from the Wexner Foundation, the law office that conducted the review, and Epstein's former legal counsel did not respond to requests. The emails show that Darren Indyke, who served as both Epstein's personal lawyer and attorney for the foundation, was the middleman in such communications, cloaking Epstein's foundation-related activities with attorney-client privilege. So basically, by sending them to the attorney, they could say these are privileged communications between a client and his attorney, and thus they shouldn't be released, but they've been leaked. Indyke is also the executor of Epstein's estate, which has been accused of obstructionism for withholding privileged emails from civil lawsuits and congressional subpoenas. The Wexner Foundation's independent reviewers did not have access to the emails published here because, according to the 2020 report, the foundation's archive of email does not go back to Epstein's time as a trustee. On paper, the Wexner's family's philanthropic foundation and their retail empire, once home to Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie & Fitch, and you guys might remember that the dude over at Abercrombie & Fitch, the CEO or one of the founders, he was also implicated in sex trafficking and sexual abuse. Bath & Body Works were largely separate and largely had their own staff. But in practice, as is typical of such foundations, one small family office sat over both the family's fortune and philanthropy. Internal emails between Epstein, Indyke, and Wexner's staff show Epstein as the effective boss of the family office and the real gatekeeper of the Wexner's money. And email after email, Wexner's financial controller, Peg Ugland, wrote to Indyke with account balances for a web of Wexner's entities, charitable trusts, private investment vehicles, and personal trading accounts with a recurring refrain: please ask Jeffrey if I can transfer. Why in the heck would Les Wexner? I mean, this honestly kind of turns some of the sort of claims on its head, including my own. Like I said, I mean, we've largely thought that Les Wexner was the boss of Jeffrey Epstein and maybe that Wexner was the conduit to Israel. But then why would the Wexner Foundation be asking Jeffrey for permission to make transfers? Epstein was the final authority on which Wexner's entity should cover his expense, how to move assets between entities, and whether to approve large fund transfers for the Wexner's accounts. Epstein continued to advise on IRS filings and multi-million-dollar transactions until at least December 2007, which was 2 months after he had supposedly resigned as a trustee. So here's the statement they show, an excerpt of the Wexner Foundation's independent review, where they claim As you can see here, although Epstein held the title of president of the Wexner Family Financial Office, there's no evidence that he played any significant role. He did not make decisions regarding the foundation's use of funds. That is a lie. Survey says that's a liar. What's the Maury, the show Maury, for those who remember that? Lie detector says, paternity test says, that's a lie. Under Epstein's financial stewardship and after his departure, the Wexner Foundation bankrolled pro-Israel charities like College Hillels and Free Birthright Trips. These programs had a common mission of teaching young diasporic Jews to define their religious identity. So Epstein is like directing communications and emails. Make sure it's a U.S. charity. Do we have a following? Do we have following requirements? Ask Harry. If okay, make from the foundation. So there's clearly emails showing that Epstein is the one making financial decisions, the exact opposite of what Wexner claimed. Here's another one. Darren, somebody named Darren wrote, please ask Jeffrey if it is, or Peg Uglin to Darren wrote, please ask Jeffrey it is okay to transfer $1 million from WPH Core at Bear Stearns to WPH Core at JP Morgan Chase. I have invoices totaling $600,000 for Beretta and Purdy. The WPH Core account is down to $134,000. The BS account has $2.3 million, and the ML account has $680,000. And then Epstein at the top says yes. So Epstein is clearly guiding things, and WPH stands for Wexner Personal Holdings Core account. And so he's just helping them decide to move money between Wexner's various accounts. I mean, we could go on and on. There's numbers of emails here. Abigail Wexner, which is Les Wexner's wife, she is also denied, any involvement and any knowledge of this. These emails show that is complete bullshit. And according to Dropsite News, Epstein was introduced to Wexner in 1986 by Robert Meister, whose firm provided insurance for Wexner's clothing company, The Limited. Epstein quickly became Wexner's most trusted investment advisor, and by 1991, Wexner had signed over to Epstein complete power of attorney over his estate and all of his affairs. And, I've talked about this in the past, that there is some speculation that they may have been gay lovers. I mean, for whatever it's worth, that's just one theory that's out there on the table. You might know and have heard the story that Wexner sold Epstein the mansion that became Epstein's mansion. Some say $1, some basically say for free, for $0, but clearly they were buddies. That year, 1991, the New York Times described Epstein as president of Wexner Investment Company, and nobody has disputed that he had a major influence there. Yet the Wexner Foundation has maintained his influence did not extend to the iconic pro-Israel philanthropy organization. That same year, Wexner gave Epstein personal control over his vast fortune. Wexner formed the Study Group, which again, the Study Group is what is also known as the Mega Group. There's only really been one mainstream report on it, and that was the Wall Street Journal. As you can see here, titans of industry joined forces to work for Jewish philanthropy. This is from 1998. The Study Group, also known as the Mega Group. So it says here, the same year, Wexner gave Epstein personal control of his fortune. Wexner formed the Study Group, a group of ultra-wealthy Jewish entrepreneurs who developed philanthropic initiatives to fund support for Israel. Meister's wife, Wendy, also introduced Leslie to Abigail Koppel, a young Israel-American attorney, 25 years his junior. And that eventually became Les Wexner's wife, Abigail Wexner. Epstein was named trustee of Wexner's philanthropic foundation, and he supervised the drafting of Leslie and Abigail's prenuptial agreement before they were married in January 1993. So Epstein is deeply involved in his life and relationship. He's creating the prenup agreement. The marriage cemented a deeper tie between Wexner and the state of Israel. He was marrying into Israel's founding generation. Abigail's father, Yehuda Koppel, was the commander of a special operations unit of Haganah, the paramilitary army that created the state of Israel in 1948. Haganah formed the core of the Israeli Defense Force and carried out the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, later termed the Nakba. Wexner's father-in-law played a foundational role in the birth of Israel's military intelligence. According to the diary of Israel's founding father, David Ben-Gurion, Koppel served in Shai, Haganah's intelligence arm, and the predecessor to Israel's Central Military Intelligence Directorate, Amman. During the Nakba, his unit conducted sabotage operations involving vehicle hijackings and explosives. So, I mean, Wexner, his wife, his wife's family, his father-in-law, deeply embedded into the Israeli intelligence and to the Israeli Zionist apparatus in general. I'll just read a little bit more and we'll go on, because this is not the only story. Again, like I said, this is Wexner back in the news, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, it's not getting enough attention. You know, Drop Site News is doing their job. They're doing a great job, but it's not really making it out to, you know, the wider public, unfortunately, which is why I need you guys to share this video. In 1983, since 1983, the Wexner Foundation has contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to Israeli-linked charitable causes, quietly underwriting flagship pro-Israel institutions in America. Although Leslie is the family's familiar public face, Epstein's emails suggest Abigail has become far more active than Leslie and the family's finances after their marriage. As both the trustee of the Wexner Foundation and the director of the Wexner Family Charitable Fund, Abigail sits on both sides of the philanthropic funding pipeline. How money enters the family fund and how much of that money flows out to charitable causes. And of course, they say charitable causes, but we all know that this is just a front. It's a cover for them funding Israeli interests. Epstein and Abigail sometimes emailed directly, but most critical financial issues raised by Wexner's family office were routed to Epstein through Indyke, who is both Epstein's personal lawyer and the secretary of the Wexner Foundation. So I think I've read enough here. I will invite you, really just, you know, kind of really highly encourage you guys to go read this article on your own, because it goes deeper. But that's not all. That's not the end of Les Wexner getting back into the media. So let's go ahead and check out the next story. Again, all these stories in the show notes, as always. This one, OSU alumni, Ohio State University, holds photos of billionaire Les Wexner with Jeffrey Epstein while demanding testimony in school sex abuse case. Looks like Les Wexner is involved in another case involving allegations of sexual abuse. Former OSU wrestler Tom Lissy said, "We believe Wexner's testimony will shed light on the abuse allegations against Professor Dr. Richard Strauss." Former Ohio State University students are trying to get billionaire Les Wexner to testify about Richard Strauss, a former campus doctor who allegedly abused dozens of men. And they staged a protest Thursday, this was last week, at a Board of Trustees meeting where they brought up Wexner's past friendship with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And they did so without uttering a word at the actual meeting. "We wanted to let them know that Wexner has been avoiding the subpoena," former OSU wrestler Mike DiSabato said. "They didn't let us speak to the board." Nearly a dozen former OSU students held a protest outside the building before the meeting. Once inside, they silently held up posters with the words, "Where's Wexner?" and a photo on the other side of with Wexner with Jeffrey Epstein. "I think we made our point." So let's go ahead and open this image up and blow it up so you guys can see it. Here you can see this is at the Board of Trustees meeting, and there's about a half dozen, says survivorsofosu.com, I think is the website, and there's pictures of Jeffrey Epstein. Where's Wexner? Survivorsofosu.com. We're going to open that up real quick so we can give them a little bit of traffic. Survivorsofosu.com. Here we go. They have timelines. They've got fact checking because, of course, OSU, Ohio State University, is trying to cover its ass. Welcome to Survivors of OSU, out now on HBO Max. Oh, wow, there's a documentary, Surviving Ohio State. I haven't seen that. We're going to have to go check that out. I have to watch that and get back to you guys. But it says here, the OSU Dr. Strauss incident refers to the sexual misconduct scandal involving Dr. Richard Strauss, a former athletic team doctor and a physician at Ohio State University from 1978 to 1998. To date, 521 male survivors have come forward saying they were assaulted during his tenure at the university. The abuse took place in various settings, including medical examinations, athletic facilities, and Strauss's off-campus clinic. OSU has been criticized for its failure to act on numerous complaints and report against Strauss during that time, which allowed the abuse to continue for years. In response to the investigation, OSU has apologized to the victims and says it has taken steps to implement new policies and procedures to protect students, all the while continuing to fight survivors in court for over 5 years. The case has sparked a broader conversation about the need for systemic change in institutions to prevent sexual misconduct and prioritize the safety and well-being of students. So, as you can see, lots of students say they were abused by this man, and Leslie Wexner is connected to him. The OSU Board of Trustees is chaired by John Zeger, who is both the father and the law partner of Wexner's lawyer, Matthew Zeger. And it was the elder Zeger who adjourned the meeting before Tom Lissy, a former OSU wrestler, could deliver a statement about Wexner. Well, isn't that convenient? So let's put that into perspective. Board of Trustees chaired by John Zeger, his father, Matthew Ziegler is a partner of Wexner's own attorney. Some of the alleged victims, OSU wrestlers, former wrestlers who say they were abused by this Dr. Richard Strauss, show up. They hold signs. One of them, Tom Lissy, is going to speak. And Matthew Ziegler, again, the partner of Wexner's attorney, decides to adjourn the meeting. The statement read in part, "We are here today to publicly express our dismay that Leslie Wexner is avoiding service of a court-ordered subpoena for deposition in the Richard Strauss case. We believe Mr. Wexner's testimony will shed light on the matter." OSU spokesperson Benjamin Johnson said that the Strauss survivors have addressed the board in the past, but did not request to do so at the meeting. There is no standing public comments portion at these meetings. So they're saying you have to schedule ahead of time. You can't just show up and have a public comment period. Maybe that's true. Who knows? Either way, they're obviously just trying to avoid these people. When asked about the subpoena evasion allegation, the law firm representing Wexner said in a statement, it will respond in court at the appropriate time. The statement said, quote, "Since early September, we have asked plaintiffs' counsel on several occasions to identify what knowledge they believe Mr. Wexner has relevant to the Strauss matter so we can consider the request. In the past 3 months, plaintiffs' counsel have failed to answer that question. The university has been battling lawsuits since 2018 when DeSabato and other former wrestlers went public with the allegations that Strauss had sexually abused them and hundreds of other students, and that the school knew about it but did nothing to stop them." So again, Wexner, Limited Brands, L Brands, Victoria's Secret, Pink, Bath and Body Works served on the board when Strauss allegedly abused young men. So that's basically the claim, is they're saying, look, he was on the board during the time when this Dr. Strauss was allegedly abusing kids, and they probably think that he might have something relevant to add to it. Last month, the lawyers for the final batch of Strauss survivors who are currently suing OSU told the federal judge overseeing the case that Wexner may have information about Strauss, but has evaded their attempts to serve him with a subpoena. That said, they say Wexner's private security has barred their process servicers for subpoena him at his home and in New Albany in the Columbus suburbs. They said his attorney has also refused to forward the subpoena to Wexner. They asked the judge, Michael H. Watson, for an alternative way to deliver the subpoena to Wexner, like leaving the document with his security team or mailing it to his residence. The judge has not ruled on their request as of yet. So they have here a note and drawing dated January 20th, 2003, where were reportedly created by Les Wexner for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book. We know all about that. So again, Les Wexner, Jeffrey Epstein, there's a connection there. Les Wexner, would it be a surprise if he knew something about another pedophile abusing boys, another child abuser? No, it wouldn't be surprising. Then here's another report from WOSU Public Media. Les Wexner's connections to Strauss and Epstein raised at Ohio State Board of Trustees meetings, and that's just kind of another report on the same thing. And then we have this one, Sportico, the business of sports. Ohio State sex abuse accusers zero in on Wexner as mediation begins. So this is saying that mediation has actually begun. This is the most recent report. It's from December 11th, and I'm recording this on December 15th. More than 7 years after the abuses of Ohio State physician Richard Strauss were exposed, a second wave of litigation is escalating, with formal mediation having commenced. Last week, the university and plaintiffs in 5 pending several cases convened for the first of several mediation sessions scheduled over the coming months. The talks are being facilitated by former U.S. District Judge Lane Phillips, who previously mediated the Michigan State sex abuse lawsuits involving Larry Nassar. At the same time, Strauss survivors staged a protest, as we just covered, and so they're claiming that mediation has begun. We will see what exactly that leads to. It says on Wednesday, Ohio State filed a response opposing the request for basically the request to subpoena Wexner, and contending that Wexner has nothing material to add to the litigation. Ohio Attorney General David Yost, who's representing the university, said it is apparent once again that the plaintiffs are seeking to depose Mr. Wexner as part of their ongoing improper effort to try their cases in the court of public opinion rather than the court of law, thereby prejudicing the public and potential jurors against Ohio State. Plaintiffs' continuing extrajudicial tactics are improper and should not be allowed. Again, he said they will deal with it at the appropriate time. But mediation has allegedly begun. We will see if anything comes out of that. But as I pointed out earlier, I've been talking about Les Wexner, Jeffrey Epstein. Since 2016, I've been reporting on the Epstein network. I've been reporting on people like Les Wexner. And my hope is that Wexner does get more attention. I want to invite you again to go find this report I did. Let's see, how long ago was it? Les Wexner, new evidence connecting Jeffrey Epstein to Les Wexner. And this one, the evidence for Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad connections. This one I made in April 2019. This one is from February 2019. So both of these are 6 years old, almost 7 years old. And I've been calling out Les Wexner, pointing out everything you need to know about this, including the fact that Les Wexner has mafia connections going back to Ohio. You should read this article that's linked here from the Free Press, Wexner War. This is from August 2003. Guys, there's a lot there, but surprise, surprise, Les Wexner, connections to Zionism, connections to Israel, connections to the mafia. I will put those links in the show notes as well. I hope that this man faces some accountability, because it would be another injustice if he was allowed to just continue roaming free. And I'm not even saying that I have clear evidence he did anything wrong, but we know he knew things about Epstein. Those emails prove that his foundation and him were lying about the extent of his relationship with Epstein, and that went well beyond Epstein's first conviction. And now there appears that he might have some information related to this case against this Dr. Richard Strauss, who is accused of abusing more than 500 men. I plan to go watch that documentary. I've never heard of it. If you guys have, please fill me in the comments. But hopefully this gentleman here, Les Wexner, his time for accountability is coming. All right, so let's go ahead now. Before we get into our next story, I wanted to update you on something I announced last week, that my memoir, my brand new memoir called The Man of My Word, How I Overcame Addiction, Depression, and Mental and Physical Prisons is coming. And you guys can now find everything you need to know at amanofmyword.com, amanofmyword.com. It'll take you to this landing page, which includes the review I got from James Corbett. Right now, there's no link here, but the book is going to be available December 22nd. And when you go here, you'll be able to click this and it'll take you to the purchase page. This is just more background about my book. You can see the table of contents here. You can check out my other books. You can contact me. I am so excited to share this with you guys. I really, really can't wait. I don't even have my own physical copy yet. I think I'll be picking it up next week, and I can't wait to show that to you guys. But it is available out there. And in fact, let me show you. The book is actually already available for pre-order on Barnes & Noble, and I heard on Amazon too. But if you're in the US and you can order from Barnes & Noble, that's better. Now, I am going to have my own personal store set up that you can order from once it goes live on December 22nd. But if you want to pre-order it and get it shipped immediately, you can do so at barnesandnoble.com. Of course, I think this only applies in the US, but we will have it available to people all over the world. So excited, guys. A Man of My Word, How I Overcame Addiction, Depression, and Mental and Physical Prisons. I can't wait for you guys to read this and to learn more about the path that I've been on and how that led to the work that I'm doing today. So let's jump into our next story here. This is all about Trump's new executive order, just more examples of him showing love and favoritism towards the big technocrats, the big tech bros. Trump defies GOP critics by signing controversial order threatening states over AI laws. A new executive order comes as a growing group of Republicans criticize Trump's staunch support of the tech industry's ambition for artificial intelligence. President Trump signed an executive order on Thursday directing the federal government to file lawsuits, can you believe it, against states that introduce regulations on AI technology deemed to undermine the global AI dominance of the United States, doubling down on the White House's industry-friendly approach to tech policy despite growing pushback from politicians in both the Democrat and Republican Party. The order directs the Justice Department to sue states if they try to introduce bills that they say contradict the policy of maintaining a, quote, minimally burdensome regulatory framework for AI. And legal experts have said that the tactic will face considerable court challenges. I believe there's already been lawsuits filed to try to stop this executive order. If they haven't yet, I thought I saw a couple headlines, but if it hasn't happened yet, you better believe it's going to happen, because they're saying that the Constitution gives states wide leeway to pass laws on issues not covered by federal legislation. And think about this. I mean, I know I'm beating a dead horse here. I don't like to beat animals, but I'm going to keep telling you guys, Trump is not a conservative. Trump is not a Republican. He doesn't give a shit about the Constitution. He doesn't give a shit about, small government, limited government, states' rights. That was always we were told, the bastion of the right wing, right? Because the left, they tend to not care about states' rights, and they want a big, strong federal government. At least that's what we've been told. And here Trump is basically saying, we're going to sue any states that try to pass their own rules and do their own work on how they want to address AI. And it's the same tired argument that we've seen with 5G and other things, that we can't have a so-called patchwork of legislation. So if Illinois does their own rules and then Texas does their own rules, well, it's just going to be so confusing. We're not going to be able to figure it out. How will we ever be able to navigate this patchwork of laws? It's going to slow down AI, and they claim, well, this is going to prevent us from beating China to the race to 5G, the race to 6G, the race to AI, the race to the biodigital convergence, the race to technocracy. Oh, it's such bullshit, guys, because in reality, the people who actually control things, the people who control the pyramid of power, they control China and Russia and the United States. So don't buy into this whole idea that we need to beat China, because otherwise, if China wins, it's going to lead to technocracy. And I'm sure the Chinese citizens are being told the same thing. China needs to beat the U.S. to the race to AI. Otherwise, if the U.S. wins and it's U.S. dominance, that's bad for us. They're all working towards technocracy. Don't fool yourself. The order also directs federal agencies to look into withholding funding for states that pass their own laws. Oh, that's a way to threaten people. And ask the White House advisors on technology to draft new legislation that would formalize the preemption of state laws through Congress. So right now, this is just an executive order, but they're also saying, let's go ahead and pass some laws, because that's not enough. The executive order is not enough. Let's pass laws that will prevent this from happening. The order says, quote, until such a national standard exists, however, it is imperative that my administration takes action to check the most onerous and excessive laws emerging from the states that threaten to stymie innovation. It singles out a Colorado law that seeks to protect its citizens against discrimination by algorithms that the tech industry lobbyists have targeted. During the signing ceremony, of course, Trump is surrounded by his big technocrats, as you can see here, Howard Lutnick, David Sachs, and of course, Ted Cruz getting in on the action. It says, during the signing ceremony, Trump said AI was already leading to medical breakthroughs and that the U.S. needed a thriving industry to compete with China. He also said endangering the industry's growth could hurt the economy. Oh, man. And you have a couple of examples of some Republicans who have been trying to regulate AI for the safety of their people. Not saying that they're perfect angels, but they've been at least trying to do something. Republican figures like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri have pushed back against the White House moves to use federal legislation to block or preempt state laws on AI. In addition to pointing out that the long-standing GOP tradition of defending states' rights to govern themselves, they argue that many Americans are concerned about AI's impact on jobs, the potential dangers to children, and its role in driving up electricity prices, not to mention damage to the environment, sucking up all the water that's going to be needed as they build these massive data centers. The companies are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to construct power-hungry data centers to support their AI ambitions, which some say is going to strain the electric grid. And as I said, will also suck up a lot of water and damage local communities by taking their water. Trump has shot back and said that the patchwork of state laws might endanger the U.S.'s ability, blah, blah, to compete with China. So this is just picking up on trends that have been happening for a while now that I've been reporting on. Here's another article, States Defiant in the Face of Trump's AI Executive Order. Let's go ahead and get that one opened up real quick. And then also I'll point out too that I have been reporting at the Last American Vagabond, showing how AI and big tech firms are winning under the Trump administration. So it says here, states are forging ahead with AI laws despite Trump's new executive order aimed at reining them in. What they're saying, policymakers behind key state AI bills have scoffed at Trump's orders, and some have vowed to bring legal action. That's what I was talking about. California State Senator Scott Weiner authored the state bill AI bill SB 53, says it's absurd for Trump to think he can weaponize the DOJ and commerce to undermine states' rights. New York State Assembly member Alex Bors, behind another bill in New York, says Trump is, quote, throwing a door wide open for an out-of-control AI development and that Congress needs to put guardrails on it before it's too late. As we mentioned, Ron DeSantis is speaking up against this. You also got Utah Governor Spencer Cox, who called for a MAGA-backed alternative that would protect kids and America's competitiveness. But most of these things are being ignored. And in fact, even Steve Bannon, who, I'm not a huge fan of him in a lot of ways, but he's calling out Trump for this. A major MAGA voice told Axios that AI czar David Sachs is, quote, completely misleading the president on preemption, the preemption bill, basically. And this idea that they need to preempt states' rights. And then, of course, you got Democrats. You got Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, Republican, fought against congressional efforts for a state AI moratorium and has been vocal about protecting kids and artists online, says that she will work with the president to draft the federal framework called for in the order. So some people are speaking out. Some people are preparing to sue him. But I wanted to point out how this article I wrote last week, I touched on this. When I recorded my show last week, my article wasn't out, but I told you guys about this, how Trump's FCC is seeking to strip even more local control regarding the 5G rollout. And he's working with this man here on the left side of the screen, Brendan Carr, the commissioner of the FCC. And they're doing two things. They've introduced a package of 15 different bills, which are trying to strip local power as far as the ability to stop the 5G rollout. And they're also using the FCC. They've proposed a new rule, which is called Build America, Eliminating Barriers to Wireless Deployments. And most of it does deal with 5G. But at the same time, there is this section here about AI regulation. So the FCC discusses how mobile network operators use artificial intelligence to manage the performance of their networks and ask for the public to comment about whether state and local regulations focused on AI are an effective prohibition on wireless providers' ability to provide covered service using AI technology. So basically, as part of this public comment period that I told you guys about last week, they're not only asking for the public to comment about what you think about the rules on 5G, but they're asking the public to say, what do you think about states' regulation of limiting of AI? The FCC appears interested in preempting or overriding state and local AI regulations as part of their effort to advance 5G and 6G networks. And so that ties in perfectly with what Trump is doing here with his executive order, because he's issuing the executive order. He's asking Congress to start passing laws that are going to restrict states' rights as far as AI goes. And at the same time, the FCC is introducing a package of bills which is going to advance 5G and 6G and limit local power over that. And they're asking the public to comment on whether or not they're okay with the, restricting AI and states' rights there. So there's clearly a big effort to try to restrict what states and local bodies can do about AI. Now, I did note here in this article that FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez appears to be wary of the FCC interfering with local regulations on AI. She wrote, quote, "I want to caution against getting sidetracked by attempts to fulfill a failed congressional effort and second-guess states which are placing guardrails on artificial intelligence." So she's kind of conservative in her wording. I want to caution against this, but she's calling it out at least. She's saying we shouldn't second-guess states who are placing guardrails on AI. She notes that the FCC's legal authority in this area is, quote, dubious at best, particularly after recent court decisions limiting our authority. So if you're curious about that, as I mentioned last week, you have until December 31st to comment about this FCC side of things. This is linked in my article. I will put it in the show notes. This was organized by the Environmental Health Sciences Group. They made it very easy for you to put your public comment, and they will make sure you can get in there. So whether you care about 5G or AI, if you think it's worth expressing your voice, I'm not going to discourage you from it. I tend to be, as I said last week, kind of skeptical that they give a shit and that they're going to listen. But if you want to have your voice heard, you have till December 31st to leave a public comment. So to me, this AI executive order is all part of the overall push towards 5G and 6G that I've been warning about since 2018 and since my 2020 documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, which is linked in the bottom of this article. But I want to go back and show you some other articles I wrote a couple months back. Well, for one, the technocratic Trump administration, my series of articles there has called it out. But this one right here, big tech and AI firms are winning under Trump's second administration. This article outlines all the different ways, including Trump's AI action plan, and how basically how this is what it was going to lead to. It was going to lead to, more AI, less voice for the people over and over and over, because Trump is a technocrat and he's working directly with the technocrats, and he's got Robert F. Kennedy standing at the side of him as he does it. I don't know what it's going to take for people in MAGA to finally wake up and to see what's really happening, my friends, but that's what's happening. And until you're willing to shake yourself from your slumber and see what this is really about, I don't think it's going to go away. Unfortunately, I think it's just going to get worse. And if Trump's executive order stands and these lawsuits aren't able to stop it, and if Congress does act as Trump is calling on them to do, you're going to have a future with more AI, with little to no regulations or restrictions. And look, let me just kind of address that for a moment. I am a voluntarist. I'm a libertarian anarchist. I'm an agorist. I don't think government is the answer for anything. But I also, as I wrote in my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, I do think things like facial recognition and artificial intelligence pose a very unique threat to humanity's freedoms. And that maybe they are a unique case where we might need some restrictions, some regulations. And again, it's not that I even trust that the government, even if they passed and said, we're going to regulate AI and facial recognition, that they would truly do it and that it would play out the way that they claim. I'm not saying we should depend on them, but doing nothing is definitely not the answer. Letting the technocrats just run rampant over everything is definitely not the answer. So, I don't want to say government's the answer. But again, I think that we might be in a unique situation where if these technologies of artificial intelligence and facial recognition are allowed to just go buck wild everywhere, it won't be good for humanity. It definitely won't be good for freedom. Before we get to our next story, I want to remind you guys that the People's Reset is coming up. The People's Reset Activation is the event I've been hosting since January 2021, going on 5 years now. If you're looking for a solutions-focused event, my friends, and you have the resources and the time and the energy to come connect with hundreds of solutions-focused people, come join us in Morelia, Mexico. That's where I live now. That's where my land's at. January 28th to February 1st. If you can't come in person, the entire event is streamed for free. So there's really no excuses. This is Wednesday through Sunday. It's 5 hours a day of solutions-focused talks, focusing on mental, physical, spiritual health, permaculture and growing your own food, building parallel networks, using technology that's going to empower your body in privacy tech and decentralized technology, building free and conscious communities. That's people who are already homesteading, people who are building eco-villages, organizing strategies. If you are looking for practical solutions and you're tired of just hearing about the problems, my friends, this is the event for you. The peoplesreset.org is the website. Tickets are available right now. Join the Telegram group if you want to meet other people and get plugged in. Come hang out, talk to people. It's very, very important that we focus on solutions like never before. Check out the full lineup of people featuring Alex Zett, Catherine Austin Fitz, Christian Westbrook, formerly known as Ice Age Farmer, myself, John Bush, Hakeem Anwar. We've got Natalie Rise and Dub FX coming to perform. These are international touring artists. There's going to be family activities, kids activities. There's going to be workshops. It's going to be hands-on, practical, applicable for you and your family. If you can't come in person, guys, you can come, watch the whole thing online. But I did want to mention, as I've been sharing with you guys, I'm offering a special 15% discount ticket for all of my audience. If you use the code Conscious Resistors, all one word, when you check out, you get 15% off tickets. That's the best discount that's available, because I want my audience out there. I want those of you who are watching me on the internet to come in person. Leave your device behind. You bring it with you if you want, but stop looking at the world through your phone or through your computer and come be a part of a movement that is actually focused on building a better world for 2030 and beyond. Because I'm not here just to talk to you about how bad the world is getting, to, just make money off being an activist and a journalist. I need to make a living, of course. But this event is about actually changing your lives and actually building that better world that we all know is possible, my friends. So I really highly want to invite you guys, if you can make it happen, even if you got to pinch pennies, even if you got to save up for, a couple of months, you still got time. It's December 15th. You got more than a month. This is the solutions-focused movement you've been looking for. We're not just talking about the problems from behind a screen. We are focused on building the better world for 2030 and beyond, guys. So if you can afford it, the time, the energy, the money, come down to Morelia, Mexico. Come enjoy a solutions-focused 5 days with hundreds of other people from all around the world: Canada, Mexico, the US, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand. Come have a good time, and I promise you, it will change your life. If you can't make it, that's fine. You can watch for free from home at thepeoplesreset.org. Again, the dates are January 28th to February 1st, guys, and I hope to see you there. All right, my last couple stories here. This next one, it relates, kind of picking up on a thread relating to the growth of technocracy, relating to AI, 5G. This one, first starting off with the New York Times: flying abroad, get ready for a biometric corridor. New facial recognition tools are being tested at Orlando's International Airport and could soon be keeping track of travelers at departure gates across the country. Wow, this isn't looking good. So it says, imagine you're prepping to board an international flight at a U.S. airport. Instead of juggling your belongings as you pull out your passport for the gate agent, you barely break your stride as you head onto the jetway. The agent reviews your identity on a computer screen. This swift identity confirmation process, powered by facial recognition, could someday be coming to airports across America, but travelers will first see it at Orlando's International Airport. Passengers leaving the U.S. from Orlando could encounter one of 3 90-day pilot programs, including a contactless corridor, a subtly defined zone with several mounted cameras that can simultaneously process several people in motion. This is a collaboration among 3 biometric tech companies, Prezence, AFI, and Embros, and pairs cameras and artificial intelligence with facial recognition and movement tracking software. Like I said, this stuff poses a very dangerous threat to the future of humanity. You can see Joey Pritkin, the chief officer of Paravision, demonstrating the technology. They had a press conference just last week. Now, I did see that Orlando International Airport apparently seems to be a place where they test a lot of this stuff out. A lot of the big cities, including Houston, where I'm from, as well. They started testing facial recognition at Orlando 7 years ago, but now this is a new development. Joey Pritkin of Paravision says, our goal is that you don't have to tell travelers to do anything specific at all. The idea is to make the technology disappear. We know exactly who is where, when. As passengers approach the gate agent, cameras capture their biometrics, which are rapidly matched against government records, including a photo database of travelers to confirm their identities and their authorization to be in the U.S. The gate agent reviews this information on a separate screen. Biometric identity verification, which is optional right now for Americans, as I told you guys, it goes back to, wait for it, 2001 and the aftermath of 9/11, the gift that never stops giving, right? And so they have some pictures here of some of the, let's go ahead and zoom in, some of their biometric face scanning. You guys have probably been seeing this roll out in the airports. It is optional, guys. It is optional in the United States, at least. Do not do it. Do not even step in front of that camera because they will take your picture. Stay to the side and hand them your passport. Don't let them scan your face. Resist it as long as you can. So in May, Orlando International teamed up with Customs and Border Protection to introduce the faster biometric process for Americans entering the country. The optional program, called Enhanced Passenger Processing, uses facial recognition to confirm traveler identities. It is now being tested at more than a dozen U.S. airports, including in New York and Charlotte, North Carolina. And it's going to keep coming. It's going to keep expanding, guys. Here's another version of this from Biometric Update. Eye-proof, aware, Paravision, power airport biometric boarding pilots at MCO. Clear biometric gates roll out at Houston and Oklahoma City. This is a picture from the press conference I mentioned where they've got all the, they're showing you how this machine works. Orlando International trials fully face biometric enabled travel. And it's coming elsewhere. And as they say here, Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport is the latest major hub to deploy Clear's biometric e-gates. The Texas airport will allow Clear Plus members to skip manual ID checks and move directly to physical screening. The rollout is conducted in partnership with Clear and the TSA. Houston's other airport, Hobby Airport, will activate its e-gates on Friday. So this is happening, guys. They're rolling it out in Atlanta, New York, Seattle, Dallas, Oklahoma City. It's coming, and it's coming fast. And right now it's optional, but it won't be for long. And look, I found this. This is a little promo video. It's unlisted, but this is from 2 months ago where they show the vision for the future of Orlando International Airport. And we're not going to play the whole video, but I wanted to show you guys just this quick little 15-second clip from this video where they can show you what they have in mind for the future of airport travel. Check this out.
Takeover. Boarding passes are a thing of the past. From check-in to bag drop, security, and boarding, every step is powered by facial recognition, making the process faster, safer, and hands-free.
Every step is powered by facial recognition, contactless, right? And again, this is all involves AI, facial recognition. And this is at the same time, as we talked about in the last story, Trump's issuing an executive order to try to limit states' ability to regulate or slow down facial recognition and AI. It's all part of the same machine, my friends. This is all coming together. And this is part of the technocratic state that I wrote about back in 2020. Now, let me show you one other different but related story on the digital ID front. The European Union and Canada agreed to collaborate on digital ID mutual recognition pilots. New Digital Partnership Council inks a memorandum of understanding in first meeting. So, wow, there's just so much going on here. I mean, representatives of the EU and Canada emerged from the meeting of the EU-Canada Digital Partnership Council on Monday. This was reported December 9th, so about a week ago, with an agreement to work together on making the respective digital IDs work in each jurisdiction. The continental bloc and the country signed a memorandum of understanding on digital credentials, digital identity wallets, and trust services, one of several deals to work together on emerging technologies. So the EU and Canada, they're continuing to, embrace this. It's going to keep growing. It's going to keep growing, my friends. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. It's only going to get worse. And I wish and I pray that there will be more resistance to these types of things. I don't see it happening at the moment. I really, really wish it was happening, but I don't see it. I wish there was more resistance and people pushing back, because then maybe the world would be different. Maybe we could actually put a pause on some of these things, but it just seems like most people are kind of accepting it. And, this is why I focus on exit and build. Like, I think for me at least, exit and build is really kind of the answer. Getting out of their systems as quick as possible, becoming less and less dependent on them, trying to be as free from this possible. I know some of you guys love to complain and bitch and say, Derrick, come on, you really think they're going to let you build your own community? Do you really think they're going to let you opt out? They're going to come after you. Have you ever seen Waco? They've got drones, they've got directed energy weapons, they've got targeted, voice to skull technology, and all of that is true. And at the same time, that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop, and that I'm not going to try, at least to try to push back where I can, because I think we need to. If we don't, then we're screwed. So I'm going to push back and I'm going to opt out. I'm going to push back where I can. I'm going to opt out of the technology at the airport, say, no, thanks. I'm not going to let you scan my face. No, I'm not participating in digital IDs. No, I'm not participating in a biometric entry exit system. And if that means I have to give up certain things to stay true to my principles and my values and not participate, then I guess eventually I'm not going to fly. And that doesn't feel like a good solution. I wish we could, like I said, stop this, but where are you at? Where's the resistance? If you're just watching podcasts, watching me complain about this on the internet, me report about this on the internet, what are you doing in your life? And I'm not trying to gaslight anybody. I'm just saying, what are you actually doing? Are you protesting this? If you live in Orlando, are you protesting this at your local airport? Are you protesting it in your home country? I live in Mexico now. And yes, Mexico is trying to roll out biometric systems as well. We're working with groups to resist it, to push back. There's lawsuits going on. Like, I'm not just going to accept it, but I'm also going to prepare for the potential inevitability that we can't stop it. And I'm going to make sure that I create a life for myself that is free from these systems as possible. And that's what I encourage you guys to do. And that's what Exit and Build is all about. So if you want to learn more about that, you can either download my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, or you can go to the 45-day Exit and Build Challenge at theconsciousresistance.com/EXB, or you can sign up for Civil, CIVL.com/TCR, and take the 10-week opt-out challenge, where I go super deep into my strategies for how to take this on. I mentioned earlier we were going to talk about this Department of Homeland Security Border Patrol program called Operation Pig Whistle, which I have not seen really reported about or talked about anywhere else, but it is coming from a Yahoo News investigation. I know it's Yahoo, but occasionally they do some good journalism. They actually do have some journalists here. This one is called Operation Pig Whistle, inside the secret Border Patrol unit with no rules that investigates Americans. And they've got a little video, 4-minute video, if you want to learn more about it. It talks about government watch lists. And they give this story of Allie Watkins, who was a journalist and I think is still a journalist. And she was at this time writing for the Huffington Post, writing for Politico, and I think is now at the New York Times. And how Allie Watkins went to go meet a source, and instead of kind of giving her information for a story she thought she was working on, the source started telling her, like, I work for the US government, and started just asking for details about her life, her travels, her relationship with her boyfriend at the time, who worked at Capitol Hill in DC. And she talked to this person for 4 hours. And ultimately, it led to her realizing that she was on some sort of government watch list. And the person who was questioning her was a man by the name of, where did it go? excuse me, I just lost the guy's name. Watkins is a journalist. The man is named Jeffrey Rambo, who worked at a secretive Customs and Border Protection division. So he was operating under the the authority of the U.S. government, investigating this journalist about her then boyfriend. And this was part of Trump's efforts to stop leaks. And so this was part of a Department of Homeland Security Border Patrol effort to try to prevent journalists from getting leaked information. And this man, Jeffrey Rambo, was doing, as far as he knew, everything that was perfectly legal. He was, acting under the authority of the government. But according to this article, documents obtained by Yahoo News, including an Inspector General report that's more than 500 pages and includes transcripts of interviews with investigators conducted involving emails and other records, reveal a far more disturbing story than the targeting of a single journalist. This man, Jeffrey Rambo, worked at the secretive Border and Customs Protection Division, which is still operating today and has few rules and routinely uses the country's most sensitive databases to obtain the travel records and the financial and personal information of journalists, government officials, congressional members, and their staff, and NGO workers and others. As many as 20 journalists were investigated as part of the division's work, which eventually led to the referrals for criminal prosecution against the guy himself, Jeffrey Rambo, and his boss and co-worker. None of them were charged, though. And this is basically because once this program got exposed, it seems like they tried to dump it all on this Jeffrey Rambo and say that he acted, in ways he wasn't supposed to. But he's basically saying that he was doing exactly what he was assigned to do. He was interviewed for this article. He says, "I'm being accused of blackmailing a journalist and trying to sign her up as an FBI informant," which is what's being plastered all around San Diego at the moment because of misinformation reported by the media. He says that that basically, again, he was doing his job for the Border Protection Service. He was the lead on the project, and he was authorized to reach out to anyone who he thought might be useful, including journalists and other people inside and outside of government. As part of that process, he and others worked with vetted those potential contacts, pulling email addresses, phone numbers, and photos from passport applications and checking that information through numerous sensitive databases, including terrorism watch lists. He says there's no specific guidance on how to vet someone. In terms of policy and procedure, to be 100% frank there's no policy and procedure on vetting. And it says those who've been swept up in this secretive division's vetting, including journalists from the Associated Press to the New York Times. And he says, when a name comes across your desk, you run it through every system you have access to. That's just the status quo. That's what everyone does. But the idea of government officials trawling through government's databases, looking at private lives and even romantic relationships of U.S. citizens not suspected of crimes is precisely what civil liberties experts have warned about for years. And according to Hugh Handyside, a senior staff attorney with the ACLU's National Security Project, quote, "For 2 decades, we've seen how the collect it all, share it all philosophy underlying the post 9/11 law enforcement floods agencies with sensitive personal information on millions of Americans. When agencies give their employees access to this ocean of information, especially without training or oversight, the potential of abuse goes through the roof." However, this guy, Jeffrey Rambo, says this is not one story of abuse. He says he was doing exactly what his higher-ups authorized him to do. He says, quote, "I'm called a rogue Border Patrol agent. I'm called a right-hand man of the Trump admin. I accessed data improperly. I violated her constitutional rights. All these things are untrue. All these things are standard practices that," let me rephrase that, "all of these things that led up to my interest in Ali Watkins, the journalist, were standard practice of what we do and what we did and probably what's still done to this day." And so it goes on here to describe even further just about how different people have been targeted by Border Patrol. And of course, this is probably just one division of Border Patrol, one agency out of the massive federal government bloat that has grown in the post 9/11 era. I mean, this is a fairly long investigation. You can see here, it goes on for a while. It is called Operation Whistle Pig. So Rambo's probe into Watkins has a name taken from the bar that he drank at the bar, with the woman, Operation Whistle Pig. Rambo says Operation Whistle Pig was focused only on whether this journalist was providing classified information to her boyfriend or anyone else, but it appeared that a number of, or whether her boyfriend was giving her classified information, but it appears that a number of other journalists were caught up in the probe. After Operation Whistle Pig was approved, Rambo, the guy working for Border Patrol, identified 15 to 20 national security reporters and conducted Border Patrol records checks of these reporters, according to an FBI counterintelligence memo, including in the Inspector General report. So I know there's a lot of details and maybe some of that's like too in the weeds, but the point here is yet another government program by yet another federal agency that has just full kind of carte blanche to just go after whoever they want. And there's no accountability. There's literally no accountability in these situations, guys. I mean, this one guy, I guess they're blaming it all on him, right? He's the fall guy. But as he said, he was acting under the orders of his superiors. He said this kind of thing happens and is standard practice, but he's the guy that's getting blamed for it. I don't know, man. I think it's kind of messed up that this is how things go, that this is where things are at right now. But as I said, I think we can expect that there are probably many, many other programs just like this existing in the United States. And what it made me think of as I found this story, actually, let me go ahead and show you another one that I don't think has gotten enough attention from, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. This is from Newsweek, exclusive, inside the military's secret undercover army. Guys, I cannot emphasize to you how big this story is. This was reported in May 2021, almost 5 years ago. And this story right here should be front page news. It should be an outrage, but unfortunately we live in an age of clickbait and algorithm. And so it's here today, gone tomorrow, and people don't have the attention span to keep up with it. But this story should have led to congressional investigations. People should have been fired. It should have been exposed. The program should have been shut down. If there was any semblance of caring about civil liberties, constitutional rights, it would have been shut down. Instead, it's reported and it's 5 years later, and I don't think I've met a single person who knows anything about this. The largest undercover force the world has ever known is one created by the Pentagon over the last decade. Some 60,000 people as of 5 years ago now belong to this secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of a broad program called signature reduction. This force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover, in real life and online, sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies, some of them household name companies. This unprecedented shift has placed an ever greater number of soldiers, civilians, and contractors working under false identities, partly as a natural result in the growth of special forces, but also as an intentional response to the challenges of traveling and operating in an increasingly transparent world. The explosion of Pentagon cyber warfare has led to thousands of spies who carry out their day-to-day work in various made-up personas. So people who are working in jobs, they could be at the local cafe, they could be working at Microsoft, they could be working at Starbucks, they could be, all kinds of positions. Some clearly identified as soldiers, some with made-up personas. The very type of nefarious operations the U.S. decries when Russia and China does the same. Newsweek's exclusive report on this secret world is the result of a 2-year investigation involving the examination of over 600 resumes and 1,000 job postings, dozens of FOIA requests, and scores of interviews with participants and defense decision makers. What emerges is a window into not just a little-known sector of the American military, but also a completely unregulated practice. No one knows the program's total size, and the explosion of signature reduction has never been examined for its impact on military policies and culture. Congress has never held a hearing on the subject, and yet the military developing this giant clandestine force challenges U.S. laws, the Geneva Conventions, the Code of Military Conduct, and basic accountability. The signature reduction effort engages some 130 companies to administer the new clandestine world. Dozens of little-known and secret government organizations support the program, giving out classified contracts and overseeing publicly unacknowledged operations. The company's pulling over $900 million annually, doing everything from creating false documentations and paying the bills and taxes of individuals operating under fake names, manufacturing disguises and other devices to thwart detection and identification, to building invisible devices to photograph and listen in on activity in the most remote corners of the Middle East and Africa. So, it goes on and on here, on and on. The newest and fastest growing group is the clandestine army that never leaves their keyboards. These are the cutting edge cyber fighters and intelligence collectors who assume false personas on the internet, employing non-attribution and misattribution techniques to hide the who and where of their online presence while they search for high value targets. So it's made up people. It's trolls. It could be anything. We don't know. These could be people that you interact with on a regular basis on the internet or in real life. And they could be a part of this massive, massive army of secret undercover army. I mean, this just, you tie that into the Border Patrol story that we just touched on. I mean, there's no accountability, my friends. There's no accountability in the post 9/11 world. I don't know how else to say it. There's no accountability for what these people do, for how they act, how they treat you. And you think voting is going to fix this? You think voting in a new president is going to solve this? The deep state, that's the deep state. That's the deep state. It's not just, oh, the Democratic pedophile deep state or the Republican, it's this apparatus of intelligence agencies that are above and beyond the law. And of course, it is the secret societies and it's all the other organizations involved too. But it's much bigger than just one party, one president. There's no way that some person can come in and drain the swamp. It is too big to fail, too big to control. And I don't know what the solution is, how to get away from it, how to stop it, how to prevent it. I don't know that it would make a difference, but it's real and it's happening. I don't know, guys. I wish we were ending the show on a happier note, but please comment below. Have you heard about this Border Patrol program? Have you seen that Newsweek report from back in 2020, 2021? Like I said, I haven't seen many people who have. I wish there was more awareness on it. It doesn't seem to be the case, but I'm going to keep reporting on it, guys, as we watch the world get scarier and crazier as time goes on, time marches on. We'll keep our eyes and ears on it because somebody's got to. All right, guys, that's my last story to cover for today. I want to remind you, if you want to support me, the best place to support me is always at theconsciousresistance.com. Of course, signing up at Civil as well. But I want to remind you, if you want to support me and get you a new shirt, it's the holidays right now. Go ahead and pick up a new shirt from The Conscious Resistance. We got the Liberate All Life shirt. We got the No Masters, No Slaves shirt, which I'm wearing right now. The Conscious Resistance logo. You are beautiful. You are powerful. You are free. Exit and Build, You Are a Creator, Holistic Anarchism, Revolution Without Healing is a Recipe for Disaster. They're all $25. You can get them shipped anywhere in the world. If you ship outside the US, it's a little more expensive, but we're happy to ship it anywhere in the world. This is one of the best ways to support my work and everything I do, guys. So thank you so much for being here with me. I want to kind of close with a little bit of a question for you guys. As I'm approaching 2026, I want to know, what do you guys want from me in terms of content? I actually put up this poll today on all my social media. Let me see if I can pull it up. Besides Facebook, because as I said earlier, I've been banned on Facebook again. But I put this up on my social media asking people to tell me, what do you think I should do in 2026? Right now, every Monday, I'm producing the Conscious Resistance Live, as I have done infrequently for the last 10 years. And we're doing this thanks to Civil. This is, of course, sponsored by Civil, CIVL.com. But I also have another podcast called The Activation Podcast, which I haven't done that often. It is a 100% solutions-focused podcast. It is not about the news. It is only about talking to interesting people who are doing permaculture, who are building new systems, who are, questioning the world in interesting and important and solutions-focused ways. I could start that again. I could continue to do the Conscious Resistance Live every Monday and break down the news, or I could just focus exclusively on doing solutions-focused interviews with the Activation Podcast. I could try to do both. I don't know if I have the bandwidth to do both. Or I could just focus on documentaries. I originally stopped doing the Conscious Resistance Live because I wanted to focus more and more on solutions, and that led me to doing the Activation Podcast. And I'm very grateful for everything we've done for the Activation Podcast. In fact, let me go ahead and pull that up for those who don't know and have never seen it. But I don't know. In 2026, I'm just trying to feel out what feels right to me, what feels best. Should I continue to do the Conscious Resistance Live every Monday? I know there's a lot more podcasts than there used to be when I first started this. There's plenty of people breaking down the news and talking about this. And I do think I bring a perspective that you won't find elsewhere. I don't do clickbait. I don't do garbage. I think that I bring some nuance that is often needed. So I enjoy doing this show, but my work is much bigger than just focusing on the news. And also the Conscious Resistance Live gives me a place to talk about my weekly articles. So I enjoy doing that. But also, I enjoy doing things like this. This is the Activation Podcast. I've released 32 episodes. Carrie Wedler, Dr. Robin Kelly, Patrick Hallford, Melanie Rubin, Jason Christoph, Lainey Liberty, Anthony Samaroff, Miriam Gomez. We talked about with James Corbett, Catherine Austin Fitz, Jason Burmis, Del Bigtree, Matthias Desmet, Sayer G, Henna Maria, Paul Kudnek. These are all solutions-focused conversations, which I had a lot of fun recording and doing. And I might, get back to that. I like doing this. I started doing this because I got tired of just talking about the news every week. But I do see value in that. So should I focus more on doing the activation, bring this back and make that my full-time weekly podcast? Should I keep doing the news? I mean, even if I don't do the Conscious Resistance live every Monday, I'll still do news, videos as it's relevant, there's something I want to talk about. But I probably would switch to just doing the activation every Monday. Or maybe neither, and just focus exclusively on producing documentaries. What do you want me to do? I would like your opinion because you're my audience. And, especially those of you who support me on Substack and Buy Me a Coffee, who are actually funding my work. What do you want from me? Should I do the Conscious Resistance Live, continue to break down the news from a nuanced perspective that's not left and right every Monday? Or should I switch to doing the Activation Podcast, just focus on solutions-focused interviews every week? Should I try to do both? I don't know if I can. Or should I, get rid of both and just focus on doing documentaries and just do videos about breaking news as it's important? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in my email at derrick@theconsciousresistance.com. I'd love to hear from you guys because I do value your opinion. And before we sign off, I want to remind you guys, of course, this show is brought to you by Civil, civl.com/TCR, the best place to sign up. Guys, if you sign up right now, you can get 20% off with the TCR20 coupon code. And let me tell you why you might want to sign up right now, because the Pyramid of Power, the final episode, the final episode, chapter 17, volume 2 is about to come out. I literally might be getting it tonight as I'm recording this, but for sure it's going to be available next Monday, the 21st, but exclusively on Civil for 5 weeks. So if you want to be the first people to see it, sign up for Civil for just $5 a month. If you don't want to stick around after the pyramid's out, you can cancel. But I guarantee you, if you sign up and you start going through their platform, you're going to find a lot of interesting content. But you can be the first people to see the final conclusion of my 5-year effort to produce this documentary series called The Pyramid of Power, Chapter 17, Volume 2, featuring David Icke, featuring Mark Passio, James Corbett, G. Edward Griffin, Catherine Austin Fitz, Adam Green, Professor Richard Spence, Peter Dale Scott. I mean, I could go on. There's so many powerful researchers in there. It's my best research I think I've ever done. It's an hour and 45 minutes. It will be exclusively available on Civil for 5 weeks. So if you're not on Civil, you won't see it until 2026. It will be available for free as always. But if you want to see it first, civil.com/TCR. Use the code TCR20. Get a 20% discount, and you can sign up there and support my work, support them, and see the Pyramid of Power before anybody else, guys. I can't wait to share it with you guys. I can't wait to watch it. And final note, if you want to support me directly, theconsciousresistance.com/invest. That's where all the links to my Buy Me a Coffee, my Substack, etc. are there. So thank you guys so much for being here with me today. It's been a great show. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do share these stories. Go to theconsciousresistance.com. Check out the show notes. And as always, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Enjoy this song from my brother Prezence.
Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah, 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 yeah. Ours for the taking, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ours for the taking, yeah, yeah, yeah. History now in the making. Say, fuck the governmental gobierno, they only exist to take your money and your dinero. I ain't scared of nothing, I ain't moving, I ain't budging. Not the population trusting, but through the bullshit we be cutting. Assess the situation if you want liberation. No disinformation, pollute your clear mind. Something caught up in the lies, must be all that fluoride night to night. Keeping them mindless, spineless, fine with it. I got no time for this. Taking a trip into the future, no master, no slave. Gonna be living with a ruler by any deja we maneuver. No jabbing, no booster, cause we ransom and recruiters and we villain prosecutors, hey. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History symphony. We ain't no fringe minority, a threat to authority. When we coming together, aggregate a silent majority. See, most people don't wanna rock the boat. They afraid to go against the grain, and the system keeps them broke. So they comply and comply till our freedom implodes. Would have been thought they became the fascists at the end of the road. Let's go. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yes. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking. History now in the making. Just collective consciousness rising, the truth and so inspiring when we shine into this high state of mind. You know mankind is intelligently designed. We in love with this beautiful life. Humanity living and breathing to thrive. When we're stepping the waters of line, ayy. My people ready to rise, hey. Let's move into the new paradigm, say, and break the chains of the past, ascend into the birth of the future, yeah. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History now in the making, yeah. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History now in the making. Freedom is ours for the taking, yeah. History now in the making.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.